Hey, I'm Becca. I'm here with Adam. We are here for week 1 of the Reach More podcast. So we are in a series called Reach More.
Right.
And we know that there's a lot going on, so we want to give you guys a little more information throughout the week. And so Adam's joining us for week 1. We're kind of doing an overview. So we've talked about Reach More. I encourage you to check out week 1 online, but kind of give us a bird's eye view of what in the world Reach More
Yeah,
is.
a quick overview. So, really, we are a church that wants to do whatever it takes to reach our community for Christ. And so, really, how do we want to go about doing that? How do we feel like God is really asking us to go about doing that over the next couple of years? And that's really what Reach More is all about. It's about, reaching more people, with the love of Jesus, friends, neighbors, whoever. And so we believe that God has kind of called us to do that in 2 ways. So there are 2 goals that go along with Reach More. So goal number 1 is just everybody who is a part of the Ridge would be a part of it. So if you call the Ridge your church home, you're 100% engaged in it. So that's online, in person, anybody. If you call the Ridge your church home, we want you to be a part of Reach More and to take your next step in your relationship with Jesus, including in your generosity and in your financial world.
Sure.
And then goal number 2 is really the financial generosity part of things. And so we'd like to raise $2 million in additional giving on top of regular giving. So there's like the regular budget that we would normally do over the next 2 years. And then on top of that, $2 million for Reach More, that would then be a total of $5.2 million in financial generosity. And how cool is that to even be able to think about it on those terms, that people would be that generous so that we could reach more people and join God in what he's doing there. And so that increased budget would do 3 things. It would launch Ridge Counseling Services in Bartholomew and Decatur County. It would launch a multi-site venue or church, like a physical location in Decatur County. And then it would also help to maximize our current facility to help us just better serve our community, kind of give our building and our grounds away to our community to help, serve those surrounding us. Yeah, be a good neighbor.
Yeah, we're going to be talking about all 3 of those individually in the coming weeks, but that kind of gives us an overview. And this is not new for the Ridge, right? Like, these are things that have been going on. So, I mean, like, how long have these things?
So if you think about it, all 3 of those things, the counseling service, multi-site, and, the building. So the building, we've been talking about it since we moved into this building, which was 9/9/12, which we just had the anniversary a couple of days ago. And so really for, 12, 13, 14 years, as we've been anticipating those things too, we've been talking about how do we use our current facility to best serve our community. So we've been talking about that for a long time. And then multi-site, the first time we talked about that, like I looked back in my notes, like, did a Google search, in my worlds and stuff, and just to see when the first time I remember talking about it in a meeting, and it was in 2015. And so we've been talking about that for a long time. Now, there are different iterations, and God paused things, and, we've thought about it in different ways, but we've been talking about that for a long time. And we actually talked about counseling and mental health and what that might look like. We even publicly announced that we were thinking about that over a year ago.
Okay.
And so all 3 of those we've been talking about at least for a year, but some of them for, way longer than that.
Yeah. You said 2015 too, and my brain was like, oh, that was like last year. That's 10 years ago next year. That's crazy to think about.
We've been talking about it for a long time.
Yeah. What is there something about it that gets you like super excited that you're like, as you're telling people about this, like the one thing that you're like, I cannot contain this any longer?
Well, I think the thing about it for me is I really believe that all 3 of these things genuinely reach people. And that's really what we want to do. We want to do whatever it takes to reach our community for Christ. And if there's anything that gets me excited, it's when somebody gets that for the first time. Actually, even when we announced on Sunday and stuff, we also had baptisms, right? We had 19 baptisms. And we've had almost 100, I think, depending on who's counting and stuff, like 98, 99 baptisms this year. That blows my mind because we're not doing that. Like, God is doing that.
Right.
And that's what gets me excited about it is that there are people who need the love of Jesus, whether they know it or not. And we want to be so all in on that they come to know and love Jesus, and then they reach people, and then they reach people, and the population of heaven increases. So it's really not even about like the goals. It's not about the money. It's about us being obedient and following Jesus, and people, really coming to know Jesus because of what God is doing. And he is choosing to use the Ridge to do it. And he's choosing to use a lot of other places to do it too. Yeah. But we get to be part of that.
Yeah, how cool is it that we get to just be a little piece of that? It's all about people. Are there stories you've heard, even just out of the first week or so, of Reach More launching?
Yeah. So I had a couple of people come up and talk to me about they've never really considered, the financial world to be a part of their spiritual life. And so we do believe that all of us is really what we're called to follow with, our heart, our soul, our mind, and strength, every single part of us. And they had never thought about how do I even go about doing that? What does that mean? And it's not just smart budgeting and stuff like that. It's really this life of going, hey, I want to be a part of this, and I want to surrender this to God and do whatever he wants me to do. And how cool is it that people are saying, I don't even know what that means. And they even came up and they're like, so help me, do you have a calculator? Help me figure it out. And it's not really, about the amount. It's just this heart of I want to be a part of it. How cool is that? So that would be an example. And then I've had a couple of examples of people, just as we think about this and talk about this, there are people who are coming up and saying, hey, I believe that, people need to know the love of Jesus. And I've always wondered, how do I go about doing that?
Yeah.
How do I invite somebody, or am I supposed to stand on a street corner, or what am I supposed to do? And this gives some tangibility to that, to say, sure, oh, I can help someone, or I can talk to them, I can counsel them, or I can encourage them to get that type of help. There's gathering of church and people, and even just there are all of these ways that I can be a part of that. Even as an individual. And that's really what this is all about. It's not about making the Ridge bigger. It's not about making the Ridge shinier or any of that. It's actually just about the population of heaven increasing, and that we get to be a part of that. Sure. That's actually God's primary way of sharing his love is through the love of people who follow him. And that's humbling to me, that's challenging to me, but also it's pretty exciting to me.
That is pretty exciting. Another question I've heard, and hopefully you've got an answer to this. So say somebody said, okay, there's that 2.2
$5.2 million
right,
over
the course.
Yes. Uh-huh.
I can't even make a dent in that.
Right.
What do you have to say to that question?
Well, if you can give $5.2 million, awesome.
Holler.
But that's not necessarily the point. Mm-hmm. The point is not for an individual to check all of the boxes. Mm-hmm. The point is to follow God and ask him what he wants you to do. And so one of the things that I even said on Sunday that I think is worth repeating is, so there are two goals, right? Well, there's a reason that goal number one is everybody's a part of it. And if every single person who called their Ridge their church home actually asked God what he wanted them to do and then obeyed and did it, and we didn't reach the goal, great.
Sure.
Because really what we want people to do is to follow Jesus with all that they have. I also think that we have to remember we are not the ones responsible for providing. It's God who provides. Mm-hmm. It's all his. The way that I said it to somebody here recently who asked that, I said, this is not the thing that's going to stump God. And I have to remember that too. I get all up in the feels about it too, because I'm like, this is a big deal, and there are a lot of things, and oh, what are we going to do? And even a couple of days before, this last Sunday, I'm praying about it and thinking about it and talking, and that I think Holy Spirit moment of going, you think this is it?
Yeah, you think you got
I conquered death, man. I don't think that this is the thing that is going to stump God.
Sure.
But he can do it however he chooses to do it. And he can do it through everybody being a part of it. He can do it through other ways, grants, and all these other things that are happening too. But what I believe is that he is asking us and prompting us. We've used that word a little bit, in the series. He's prompting us to do this. And so it's really not about actually how we do it. It's about obedience in doing it,
sure,
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so it's less about, what I put on the dotted line. It's more about the heart of, yes, I care about people knowing Jesus. Yes, I am going to surrender every area of my life, including my finances. Mm-hmm. And I think if we put that all together, because it's not just one person, it's this church community. Mm-hmm. And if everybody is all in on that, then I don't think that oh my gosh, this is a big number is going to be even close to part of it.
Sure.
It reminds me a little bit of, a couple years ago we did the 10K challenge, celebrating, the 10 years in this facility and really wanting to go and serve our community and doing all that. And so maybe you're a part of that, that type of thing if you're listening. But like when I remember I actually went back and looked at my journal. The Sunday, I always journal before I talk on a Sunday. And I went back on the day we announced it. And I was like, I don't know how you're going to do it, God. And that's so many. And I don't know. But we're going to do it anyway. And we're going to be obedient. And we're going to do it. And like, he just blew that out of the water so fast. Like it was months in. And we're like, oh.
Now what? Yeah.
Like maybe it should have been the 20K challenge, because like we're not going to outgive God. We're not going to outserve God. We're not going to outlove God. We're not going to outprovide God. And so really there's a little bit of peace that comes along with it for me. So if we don't, we get to, the end of this and we say, okay, it's nothing. As long as we're doing our best to follow God, then okay. Yep. He'll do it in a different way because he can do what he sees fit. And he's a whatever it takes type of God. That's why we're a whatever it takes type of church. So that's my answer to that. Yeah. I get it, completely get it.
Well, and if that's new, that's a big question. That's a huge question.
It's hard. Money impacts every aspect of who we are. We think about it every day, whether we realize we do or not. And so I get it. I understand. And we hear big numbers and we go, I can't do that. But God can. And not only can, but I genuinely believe that he will.
That's awesome. That's really cool. Yeah. Well, thanks for chatting today. I'm excited to keep having these conversations going forward. I think next week we're talking about multi-site. What are we talking about next week?
Rich counseling services.
Rich counseling services.
Hey,
That's right. Yeah. So we'll sit down with maybe Kim, maybe Justin, and talk about what that looks like a little bit deeper. Some next steps. Check out theridge.org/reachmore. That's kind of what we're using as our landing page for everything. We talked about on Sunday, make a commitment to make a commitment. So start prayerfully considering some of what Adam just talked about, what that looks like in your life. Any other next steps for them?
I mean, we're going to be announcing all sorts of fun stuff soon. So here's this little sneak peek. We're going to have kind of a prayer initiative.
That's right.
And so we're going to talk about that on Sunday. It's called Pray For. So we want to reach more. And how do we do that? Well, we pray for all of these things. And so be listening, for all of those things. And really, we would encourage you, if you have questions, ask them. If you want to figure stuff out, talk to us, because this is a way that we all want to grow in our relationship with Jesus. So reach out or make sure that you're a part of what we're doing over the next couple of weeks on Sunday.
Yep. Email to reach us.
info@theridge.org. Yeah. And check out theridge.org/
I'm sure I'll put it right here.
Reach more. That's right. Here we go.
There it is.
But we're just so grateful that we get to do this, and I'm excited and just to see what God is going to do and how he's going to work through all this.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Adam. Thanks for being here. We'll see you next time.